Hello, it's Chloe from PrinterBox. I'm back in video with you to do the full assembly video of the PrusaBox-2. The PrusaBox-2 is the new generation of PrusaBox. If you have the PrusaBox, you don't need to improve it in PrusaBox-2 because the differences are not significant, but it's our new generation. So the front is different, the top front. This enclosure exists in 3 different heights. So this is the M, designed for the Prusa printer, but we have also the L and the XL. So let's begin by unpacking the box you ordered. This is the list of all the items you have in your parcel. This is the top of your enclosure with the big hole. And here is all the accessories inside the bottom of your enclosure. Inside this you have the 4 uprights and the 3 cross beams. You have under all this your translucent doors. And here I made the parcel just like if you ordered everything, so all printed parts and all accessories. So this is the wiring harness to control the temperature inside your enclosure. That goes with the filter and the fan. You have the LED lights, the dampers, which are elastomers to absorb the vibrations, the power supply for fan and LED lights, little screw caps that are used at the end to plug the holes that you don't use. This is all screws, nuts, magnets, and so on that you will need for sure. And then all printed parts that you can print by yourself if you want. They are all available in the download section. For this step you need 2 cross beams, the bottom of your enclosure, this is the front and this is the back, and you need those 2 parts that are present in the print plate for horizontal cable rail. See how it is. So place the cross beams inside the bottom of your enclosure. Just one for now. Place one of these parts here with the 2 feet, with the 2 branches along the side. Use an M4 hexagonal nut and screw with the screw under M4. So it's all M4 screws are M4 by 10, and then you have M3 by 6 and M3 by 12 in length. So do the same for the second one. Then add M4 screws and nuts everywhere except here and here. So you need to add screws here, not here, 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 not here, and that's it. So not on the front left and not on the back right. Now we need the front feet of the PrusaBox and the front bottom corner. Place each corner in your enclosure along the metal frame. You should not have any steps between the printed parts and the metal frame on the bottom. See, here it's perfectly aligned. So once it's done, you just have to insert an M4 hexagonal nuts and screw with M4 screws. And repeat all around. Then insert an hexagonal M4 nuts inside the slot here. Add a feet like this, up, and screw with an M4 screw from under. And repeat for all corners. Now we will add the motherboard cooling grid, which is this part, like right here. But before, you need to insert M3 square nuts inside the slot. All M3 nuts are square. This can be tricky, so I like to use pliers if needed, or else you can just push it a little bit with a finger and then push it down on the table. It might also be necessary to clean the slot before with a knife, or I use a really thin screwdriver. You will get used to it because there's a lot of M3 square nuts to insert in this assembly. Then I use a little plier to just center the nuts into the slot in front of the hole. Alright. Then place the grid on inside the enclosure. It doesn't matter the direction, and use M3 by 6, so the little one screws from under the enclosure. Once the first is placed, you can turn it to screw it easily. Now we will assemble the electrical box. So it's where we will add the additional power supply for LED and fan. So this goes like this. And then this assembly goes just like this inside the enclosure amongst the metal frame. But before you do that, you need to put the M3 square nuts into each slot. I forgot one. Now place the rectangle part inside the bigger one and place it like this inside the enclosure. And you can screw with M3x6 screws. There is 2 screws on the back and 2 underneath the enclosure. Then you should take this part. This closes the electrical box on the right, on the left of your enclosure. Also insert M3 square nuts inside it and use M3x6 screws. We will now assemble the printer feet. Those are the parts that are fixed inside the enclosure to maintain the printer in place. So place the 2 of them around here. The first one needs to be 140 millimeters, so 14 centimeters, from the inside of the metal frame here to the center of the part that is marked with a little vertical mark here. So 14 centimeters. Once you measured that, you can take M3x6 screws and screw all the way through. This can be a little bit hard. Doing that, we will expand the plastic part inside the crossbeam so it doesn't move. And the second one is 235 millimeters from the first one, so 23.5 centimeters from the second one. Again, take the middle part, take the middle mark. Let's assemble this part. We call it the side air entry. It can be also different if you need to have a temperature control and you don't have the space in front, you can have it here. But it's not for this model. So you will need a filtration system. For that, you can use medical mask. Use this as a template and cut through it to have a part that looks like this. Okay, so you can place it inside this one. Add this on it, and then this one. See, you can slide to choose if you don't want a lot of entry inside, or if you want quite a lot. So insert M3 nuts in each corner. And this goes on the outside here. So you can screw from the inside with M3 screws. To begin with, we will remove the printer screen from the printer. So remove the 4 screws that are inside the printer. Be careful to not pinch any cables, but you can turn it over, and we will need to remove those two parts. So now we will have to turn over the printer. So to do that, make sure that your extruder is on the right. You may flip it on the side, and then be careful of that part, like this. Be sure to not pinch any cables. Alright. So make sure also that the front of your printer is on the table and the rear side is up. We will disassemble the power supply unit. So for this, we'll need to remove the cables that are here. For that, use a cutting plier. Be very careful to not pinch any cables again. So we'll remove the free zip tie there. And this one. Then remove the cables from the cable holders. And there's two. You can add other zip tie, brand new zip tie to secure the motor cables to the frame. And now we will disassemble the power supply unit. For this, you can flip again your printer on the normal position. You will need to remove this printed part here. So remove the two screws that are on the bottom with the right screwdriver. And then, as you can see, there are two screws behind the cables that are keeping the power supply unit assembled to the frame. Just unscrew a little bit them. Don't remove completely the screw. Just to make them a little bit loose. And then there are two more screws to remove. They are this one and this one. I can maybe a bit so you can see. At that moment, you may keep an hand on your power supply unit or it may fall. Yeah. And nothing held it again anymore. So your power supply unit was also used by the printer to keep this part perfectly perpendicular. So as we remove it, we will replace it by this part. So it's the same principle. The two screws that are on the bottom are used here, and the two screws that are on the front of the frame are going here. So place it on the screws on the bottom first, and then stick it to the frame and screw back on the front. Ah, I forgot that you need to add, of course, the 2 little M4 nuts inside the printed part. And then you can screw. And screw also, don't forget the one on the bottom. Now we will assemble the printer's feet. So we'll need to flip again your printer on the table. Again, be careful to this and also the bed. So, push the cable holders on one side of the printer, because we will not use them. You can push also the genuine dampers on the side. Then take those parts, I don't know if you see them, and assemble in it, in every slot, a little M3 square nuts. Now we must screw the dampers, so the elastomer dampers, inside the printed part. You need to be sure that they are quite perpendicular in this direction and on this one. See, here it's perpendicular, and this one also. So screw all the way. And do the same 4 times. Prepare them by adding M3 by 12 screws in it. So they are the little but long one, the thin but long one. Screw just a little to not lose the screw. And then we will place them on the printer. So on the front, they are made to be on the outside. Here, here, and on the rear, they are made to be on the inside. If you can't place them right, it's because you tighten too much the screw. I did. It's better. And the same here. Alright. Now we need to adjust them. So take a measurement device and count from the very bottom, so the outside of the frame, until the beginning of the printed parts, 15 millimeters. So if the generic dampers are on the way, you can remove them, place them somewhere else to not lose them. We don't know if some day we will use them or not. Then count 15 millimeters and screw. For the back, for the rear side, so the one that are on the top for now, you have to count 41 millimeters. And screw. It is done for the under your printer, so you may put it on its feet. I advise you to take your power supply unit, place it on the bed, and for the screen, keep it on the side of your printer. Right, like this. You can now place the printer inside the bottom of your enclosure. So place the elastomer dampers inside the square feet you installed in your bottom frame. The next step is the power supply assembly. So this is the power supply, and it's going here. But before that, we need to prepare those parts. And this one. So insert M3 square nuts into each slot. Then take this part and place it like this inside the enclosure. And you need to screw here and the 2 screws from underneath. Then take this part and place it like this inside the enclosure. So the most important thing is that this slot is going on down. And then screw again, 2 screws underneath and 1 at the back. Both parts need to be screwed with M3x6 screws. Take your power supply unit, place the switch on the right. The short part is going there. So slide it inside the power supply unit or outside the power supply unit, and the bigger part is going on the right side. Then place the whole assembly like this, and the aim is to place the metal frame inside the slot here, the first one, the U-shaped slot. So the easier way to do it the easiest way to do it is like this. Just incline the assembly, place it where it belongs with the metal frame, and then you can place everything in position. And now screw with M3x6 screws again. I would advise now to place the wires so that the maximum length is inside this part. So just bend it like this. They need to go through the slot here. Then take the L-shaped metal frame and place it like this. Again, in the slots of the printed parts. And you can screw with 2 M3x6 screws. The next step is the control panel. So for this enclosure, I chose the angled control panel, which is this one. See, there are two parts that can be clipped together. The left one is made for the Prusa screen, the Prusa display, and the right part is made for the LED lights and control temperature. So we'll need these two parts. There's a little one, and also the wiring harness. And finally also the USB cable extender. So let's begin by adding M3 nuts into each slot. This one is a little bit trickier, so I'm using plier. So now we'll begin by preparing this part with the USB cable extender. So place the female part inside, like this, you see, and use a zip tie to secure it in place. Don't hesitate to pull it a bit to well maintain it in place. Perfect. So this part is ready yet. For now, we'll use the wiring harness on the second part, so on the right part. So what is it and what is it composed of? On one hand, you will have the connectors for fan and LED lights, and this one is the supply unit. So this will go on the back of the enclosure. Then we have the switch for LED light, so remove it from the connectors. Place it inside the printed parts and connect back the wires. Whatever wire with whatever connection that doesn't matter. Then this is what we call the W1219 component. This is used to control the temperature. This is the probe that we'll not need for now. And this is this electrical board. I'm just removing the plastic protection, or trying to. Of the LCD display. Hopla. And then this one goes here. So you will have to bend a little the cables to make it fit inside That's a little bit tricky. Don't go too fast, just take your time and you will know when it's correctly positioned, like this. Then you can screw with two M3x6 screws. There is no nuts, no need. Just screw inside the plastic part. You should be able to press on the button. Then you may assemble the two of them together, like this. Perfect. And finally, we are going to assemble it with the Prusa official display. You need to remove the two parts at the back and the front one. So remove the knob and unscrew. You can now remove the screen from the printed parts. Before adding the Prusa display inside the printed parts, we will need to reconnect the ground wire. So place it where it belongs, on the corner of the screen display. Use a M3x6 screw. Make sure the wire is going up along the screen, and then use all the genuine M3 hexagonal nut or square nut, it's the same. And you may screw quite hard that ground connection. Yeah, like this. So now we can add it to the printed part. Begin by the back into the slots, and then you can place it on the printed part. Screw with through M3x6 screws. Then plug the USB cable. Perfect. And assemble with the second part. Like this. So now you see that all my cables are coming from under the metal frame, but we need them to go outside by this hole.
So just place the whole thing on the outside from this hole. Yes, perfect. And now you can screw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 screws M3 by 6 from the inside. And then this little part is made to stiffen the whole thing. So there's two screws, one is going from under and one from the inside. The one from under is the one with the nut, so this is the right way. And now I'm going to slide the enclosure on the edge of the table. And you may add again the button. Perfect. You can route these cables to the back and add the cable covers, the horizontal cable cover. They are this one. This one is going on the front. And this one on the back. We advise the little temperature probe to be attached on the frame of the printer here with the zip tie. So I will do it right now. Just handle the excessive length of the cable and zip tie to the frame of the printer. You can also zip tie the cables, you see right here. If you want to keep the cable here with the printed part, you can add a zip tie. It is now time to assemble the top of your enclosure. So we'll begin by the last upright. It needs to be placed inside the enclosure and to screw with the three holes in the middle. Don't screw the two sides one. Use M4 screws with M4 nuts. So you need to screw the head of the screws are going on top of the enclosure and the nuts inside the enclosure. Let's add the top corners parts. So they are two identical and two symmetrical. You need to have the straight side close to the front or to the back, and the L-shaped side close to the sides of your enclosure. So this one can go here. Slide it from the top until the end, so there's no gap between the metal frame and the plastic part. Again, L shape against the side of the enclosure, straight side against the front, and L-shaped against the side. You can now add the M4 square nuts and screw. We will now assemble the logo plate. Place inside M3 square nuts. Assemble it like this with the rectangle on top of your enclosure or on the bottom like this. Use M3 by 6 screws. Now is the time for the front top slot. There are different models. You can have a simple tool holder, but I decided to assemble the tool holder with the Prusa logo. So insert M4 square nuts, M3 square nuts into each slot. And then it goes like this from the inside of your enclosure, and you can screw with M3 by 6 screws. The LED lights are going all around these 3 sides of the enclosure. We will stick them on printed parts. So these printed parts are fixed. You can assemble them like this. And this one is for this side. You have those 2 which are going this side. And for the front, looks like this. Yeah. For the front side of the LED lights, you will need to assemble right now the 2 hinges that are used for the top door. So please find these 2 pieces. I will come closer to show you. The one with the triangles on the left, as opposite to this one. So you don't need this one, you need 2 of those. Insert M3 square nuts into 2 of them, and also a pin inside the hole. This can be tricky, so you can use pliers. And it needs to be inserted until this point. So around 2 millimeters under the printed part. You can also push amongst the table to help insert the pin correctly inside the printed parts. And then insert square nuts. Place them like this, so the pin in this direction, under the enclosure, and we'll use the four holes that are in front on the top of your enclosure. So you place your printed parts under, and you place the lead fastener on top of it, and then use M3x6 screws to maintain everything in place. You can now screw the right and the left side of the LED light using on the front M3x12 screws, and for this part M4 screws and nuts. Let's continue by adding the LEDs itself. So you can unpack them and unroll them. The end of the strip with the wires or with the connector need to be next to this slot. So this strip of LED light is going here, this one in the middle, and this one on the side. I would advise to begin by sticking the one in the middle. So remove the non-sticky parts, and then you can stick like this. Be careful to center it right on the printed part, and stick it on the printed part. You can see what I have done? I just stick it on the printed part. Then you can make a little loop like this and stick this one here. So remove the non-sticky part. Make the loop and stick your strip. And do the same for the other side. Now we will add the clips. They are used to maintain the LED lights on the printed parts, because with the time and the heat, it could be possible that the LED lights are unsticking from the printed parts. So the biggest part here goes on top of the LED lights, and this one goes under the printed part. This can be tricky, just take your time. I'm used to, so I'm going fast, but this can be tricky. So place one at each end of the LED lights and one in the middle. This is the simple filtration system. It's composed of two printed parts, two filters, one is HEPA, one is carbon, and one fan. So prepare the printed parts by inserting every nut where it is needed. Then insert the HEPA filter inside the printed part, make sure that the fabric is down. Push it all the way through and all the way against the wall of the printed part. The same for the carbon filter. And then also the fan, the sticker needs to be against the filter. Then you can add the grid, protection grid, and screws with M3 by 12 screws. You can now place this assembly against the back slot and screws with 4 M3 by 6 screws against the metal frame. You can now assemble this part. It also comes in 2 separate parts. It's just more difficult to print this way. So insert M3 square nuts and then place it like this and screw from under with M3 by 6 screws. It is now time to assemble the uprights of your enclosure. So they are all identical, the four of them, but you have different heights depending of your enclosure. I have a M1, so the little one, but you also have the L and the XL. The main difference is that the XL has 3 hinges on each upright. For each doors, there are 3 hinges. This is the bottom with the thin sections, and this is the top. For each bottom, we will bend it a little to the outside. This will give a spring effect and will help to release easily the top of your enclosure. So do this for the 4 bottom sides for the 4 uprights. Don't worry to bend it too much, it's nothing, because you can then bend it back. Then we will add these 4 corner parts. So you see that there are 2 straight holes and 2 tilted ones. The tilted one are going on the bottom of your enclosure, and this one on the top. So, like this. This is really important to not mix this way. The tilted one are going under, and the top one are going, and the straight one are going on the top. So place an M4 hexagonal screw nuts inside each slot, and tighten very slightly with M4 screws. And repeat for the 4 holes and for the 4 uprights. So we'll now proceed to the assembly of uprights. They are the 4 the same, so pick one and assemble it to the enclosure. Slide it from the top. It needs to have no overlapping metal frame, and the metal frame should be very well aligned to the printed parts. It might be necessary to unscrew a little bit some of the screws you previously put, and then you can repeat for the 3 others. We will now assemble the fixed hinges. So for the M and L version, you should have 6 remaining. They are the same than the one used for the top door, and there are 4 type B. So be sure to keep them apart all along, and insert M3 square nuts and pins into each one of them. We will now assemble the type A hinges first on the front right of the enclosure and at the back right for the right door. And be sure to keep the pin pointing up. For the back door, you will need type A hinges. Now we will assemble the type B hinges. There are 2 of them that goes on the front left for the front left door. It's time for the 2 last type B hinges. In the inside, we'll place these 2 parts that are the cable rail, vertical cable rail fasteners. And those 2 legs are going at the back of the enclosure. So, like this. Inside, and this one outside. And use, this time, M3 by 12 screws. We will now prepare the parts for the inside spool holder. So begin by inserting bearings inside this tube So you can place it just like this with a hand and then push it on the table. Then you need to insert M3 square nuts into the parts where it's needed. I've already done it, so there are 2 here and 1 on the bottom, and there are 2 here. That's it. Then you can place the roller inside this part and place both of them inside the L-shaped part here. And now you can screw here and here with M3 by 12 screws. You can now place this little part. It's the brake. You need to align the hole with the hole, and so insert the little part inside the biggest one. And then you can screw with a M3 by 12. The aim is to create friction so the spool doesn't unroll itself when the printer is going full speed. Then insert PTFE tubing inside this one. This is the 3.2 by 4.8 millimeters PTFE tubing. This is the one we gave you with the enclosure. And keep just a few centimeters on your left and the biggest part on your right. And then you can screw with M3 by 12 screws. Don't screw too much or you will pinch your PTFE tubing. We will now assemble the spool holder inside the enclosure. So place 2 M4 hexagonal nuts inside the slot on the top of this part, and then it goes like this. So this part on the top and this one on the front. To assemble this one, you might need, depending on your enclosure, to remove this screw of the fixed hinges. This is not true for the XL version, but it's true for the M and L. You will need to remove this screw and replace it by a M3 by 12 screws using this hole. But I prefer to assemble the top first using M4 screws. This part is a filament guide, and we will assemble it here using M3 by 12 screws, so the flat surface is facing you on top. So use M3 by 12 screws. It is finally time to put the top on the bottom. I would advise to be 2 persons if possible, because it would be very much easier, but otherwise you can handle it. So take the top and place it on the bottom. The aim is to assemble the printed parts and that the metal frame of the uprights are on the outside of the enclosure. So I managed to do it on the first try. Then you can slightly push down, and just like that, the top is assembled. To lock it in place, you need to push back the corners. And that's it. You can, if you want, screw back a bit the screws, but not too much, because you should be able to still move the printed parts. So you can just screw it a little back, try to move it, and if it doesn't move, it means you screwed too much. For hiding the cables, you have the horizontal cable management and also the vertical cable rails. So let's assemble them together now. This one is the front one. So clips it on the cable rail holder. You can see that those two cables are too short to be inside this one. There are one designed only for the MK4 Prusa printer, so it hides more. I didn't print it yet, but you can print it. And this one is the back one. Then you can plug the 12-volt connector. So just insert it in the elec box. Push it all the way through. Then you can plug the LED and fan. So there's an L for LED and there's a F for fan on the wiring harness. And place the vertical cable rails. They are also clicked inside the vertical cable holder. And you can make a loop of the excess, and then you can make a loop of the excess of cables and tie it with a zip tie on the top of the enclosure. We will now prepare all printed parts for the doors. So insert M3 square nuts into each part. We'll now need to insert magnets inside some of the parts. We will now add magnets into some of the parts. So there's 2 inside each of these big parts and 1 into each of there's 8 parts and 4 parts. So insert magnets. The magnets should be pushed all the way through. Again, you can use a screwdriver to help yourself. It should click really strong, and the magnet is not coming itself out of its slot. We will begin by the assembly of the left door. So you need one of the long piece. You need 4 of the identical little one with magnets, and you need 2 of the type B hinges. You have only 4 of the type B hinges, and you have 8 of the type A hinges. Don't use this one for now. Place the door so you have the 4 holes on your right and the little cuttings on the top and biggest cuttings on the bottom. Then you can place the hinges under the sheet, like this. The biggest part under also. and also under the 4 little parts with magnets. Once it's in place, you can screw with M3x6 screws. And then place the door on your enclosure. You can now take the other side door and place it in front of you, so you have the 4 holes on your left and the short cuttings on top of it and the long cutting next to you. Use the two hinges of type A, place them under the door, and then again, like the other door, place one big part under and the 4 little one with magnets. Then you can screw everything with M3x6 screws. Place the back door in front of you, so you have the 4 holes on your left and the longer distance to the edge is near you. Here is the longer distance and here is a shorter one. So place 2 hinges type A under the sheet and screw with M3x6 screws. Then take the 2 parts of the lock, place this one under the sheet and this one on top of it with the square facing the sheet. Screw with M3x12 screws and repeat for the second hole. Don't screw too much or you will not be able to turn it and to lock it. Place the top door in front of you, so you have the 4 holes nearer to the middle in front of you. Place under here the 2 handles and over there place under the 2 hinges type A. And you can screw everything with M3x6 screws. Place now the front door in front of you, so you have the 4 holes on your left and here also the 4 holes on your right, and you should have the long cutting in front of you. Here is a short cutting. This little thin plexiglass sheet is going under this one, like this. Also make sure that the cuttings are matching. Take 2 type A hinges and place them under this one, the one on your left, and 2 type B under this one. We will place the 4 parts with magnets. So the 2 that have a different height here, those 2 are going for the door on your left. The one that have little wings here compared to this one, so this one is going on top under the thin plexiglass sheet, and this one is going at the bottom. The same apply here. The one with the wings is going on top, and the one without is going here at the bottom. You need to screw the hinges with M3x6 screws and all of these magnet pieces with M3x12 screws. The last step is the handles. So there's one slightly higher than the other one. The higher one is going for the door on your right that doesn't have the thin plexiglass sheet, and the shorter one is going here. The shorter one needs to be assembled with M3x12 and this one with M3x6 screws. You can now place this door on the left and this one on the right. And that's it. This assembly is now finished. Well done. If you have any remarks, questions, problems, don't hesitate to contact us. We will be here to help you. Enjoy your printer. Bye-bye.